A ovdje chillaju upravo A-Plus i Tajai. Souls of Mischief su u kući ovdje na 102.5. Tajai A-Plus, welcome to Yama FM, welcome to Zagreb. We're so happy to have you here. Is this the first time in Croatia?
We did Pula or Outlook, or well, not. I forgot the name of the festival.
Outlook Festival.
Outlook,
that's
yeah,
right.
We did Pula.
That used to be
2012,
banging.
I think. Yeah,
wow.
That's the only time we've been here.
So 10 years ago.
And
I wasn't. I didn't come to that. I wasn't here for that.
Oh, you weren't here for that. Now you are. And you all came here. Tajai A-Plus, OPO, and Festo are in Zagreb right now. But with me in the studio, Tajai and A-Plus, fellas. What's gonna happen tonight? How the people gonna? What's your show gonna be about?
Well, it's just we bring a lot of energy, you know, and trying to mix up our biggest songs with some more obscure stuff and some underground classics that people we found out people love from like our demo and things like that. But I just say, yeah, just nonstop action, you know, from start to finish.
Scratch Bastard was here last week, DJ from Toronto.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, he said he already hyped you guys up last week. He's like, yeah, this show is gonna be wild. These guys are still kicking it. They're still killing it on the stage.
That's what's up. That's a brother.
Yeah.
So that might be the best invitation for everybody in the car right now, still on their way to Aquarius. Go there. You're gonna catch a really good show.
Yeah, man. We try to leave it all out there on the stage, and on top of that, you know, we're celebrating 30 years since we released the album. So we try to give the same energy as the album, and you know, just leave it all there.
Definitely. 30 years in the game, longevity. I mean, guys, what can I say? You're still in the game. You're still doing it, still killing it. 10 years ago, you even had an album came out. You had Snoop on it, Busta Rhymes on it. First thing I want to say, leading up to this interview, I watched your documentary again. And what struck me is how young y'all were when y'all started and how y'all all gathered around the same goal and the idea. Is it safe to say that this early friendship was the glue to what held you guys together for the next 30 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We all grew up together from early childhood, and with growing up together as kids and just doing what kids do, we also shared a deep love for hip-hop culture, which was you know, pretty much at its early beginnings as far as publicly at the time. So our love for hip hop throughout the childhood, and we were just always dedicated to hip hop. We were friends doing other things as well, like, you know, playing games and going places and talking to girls, but hip hop was our thing that we all did. So it very much was childhood has been the glue for the hip hop situation. Dope. Because we'd still be friends even if we weren't doing hip hop.
That's great, and that's really nice to hear. And I want to talk about where you're from a little bit, Oakland, the Bay Area, a place that has given so much to hip hop. Too Short, Shock G, rest in peace, Sway. That's just off the top. And also leading up to this interview, I also watched, like I mentioned earlier, the documentary, and Opio mentioned something interesting, which is something that's so different from where we grew up here in Croatia. He talked about live and let live, and he mentioned how dangerous it was growing up in Oakland and how it used to be at parties and in the streets and even in school. That's so wildly different. We have our own problems here in Europe, and I would say the Balkans even, but just growing up in an environment like that, how did that impact your music? And did it make you anxious, or were you not really even aware of the situation? Was it even bad for you? How do you look at it, like when you're growing up?
I think in hindsight, it's a strength. If you survive, so let's put that there, because we have a lot of friends who didn't survive. But if you do survive, in hindsight, it gives you situational awareness. A lot of things that I think people would be mind-blowing to people we've sort of seen. And also, it gave us a reason not to be just hanging out on the corner and wasting our life, because we see it, you know, you see it right in front of you, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not gonna go in that direction. That's not for me. So I think we're saying this now as men, you know, nearing their 50s, who are, survived. And I really think that's a privilege, right? We have a lot of friends who did not, but now that we have made it through, it's like, oh, okay, we're kind of forged in the fire. We learned a lot. We really just were able to evade a lot of pitfalls because a lot of the people we saw around us weren't able to. So it's kind of a weird situation, right? Where you since you survived, you were able to learn from the people who didn't, which is sad because there's loss there. Mm-hmm. However, it's also a good thing because we were able to learn what to do and what not to do at an early age. I mean, Oakland, it gets a bad rap. I mean, it's probably no different than any sort of metropolitan city in America, but we learned a lot about the streets, and we're not necessarily even street guys, and that's the part I think that people don't get. Like, there's no way to escape it. Mm-hmm. There's no bubble you can hide it because it's a small place, right? So if you go out to a house party in junior high school, or as a kid in high school or whatever, you're going to see elements that you probably shouldn't be exposed to at that young age. But since you learn how to navigate it. So it's like a gift and a curse. But I would say, as somebody who survived, as a group of people who have survived, it's definitely been a gift. I wouldn't trade it for living anywhere on earth. And it's made it so that we've been able to travel the whole world and being able to feel comfortable, in the favelas in Brazil, and Comuna 13 in Colombia, or wherever in the Balkans, wherever, we see stuff that we connect with rather than being fearful of it.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point you made. I would say most people in that situation aren't really street people or gangsters or anything.
Yeah.
The environment turns them into that. So I think it's very interesting hearing your perspective firsthand. And you just mentioned, Brazil, Colombia, traveling the world. You guys are on your world tour right now. If I'm right, that's 90. You're trying to hit 93 concerts, or?
Well, we've done 106.
Oh wow! So 93 plus 93 to infinity.
We're in infinity now.
we're in the infinity part.
You're in the infinity part. Keep it moving.
We did the 93.
That's so cool, and we're happy to have you in Zagreb. I got to tell you, I was a baby when your music came out, and the funny thing is, most of the people in the crowd tonight are gonna be my age or even younger, maybe. And I find it interesting how, even though you guys made music in the 90s, it really transcended towards the next generations. What do you think it is, guys, that particularly that created such loyalty amongst your fans? Would you say let's just stick to that question. What do you think that created this loyalty towards your music?
Well, first off, we're very thankful that we've been able to make music and have careers that has constantly been able to be absorbed and liked by younger generations. I think there might be many different reasons why this is like that, but I think one of the reasons is we made the album at an age that everybody goes through, and I think the album that we made encapsulated the energy, that youth, that vibrance, albeit from based off of where we're from and our experiences. It's something that all youth share. That time in your life when you're just late teens, early adulthood. That youthful fire. You feel like you just went through a lot because you're just hitting the world, or you're just about to hit the world. So you have all of these thoughts of how you think the world is, and even though you might be wrong on 98% of that shit, you're still willing to tackle the world no matter what. It doesn't matter if you're wrong. You just have that energy. And I think that album encapsulated that. And I think when younger people go back to listen to records, I think somehow that album has that energy, and they'll be able to relate to that energy. And even the things we're doing on the album, I think it just, even though it's an older album, it allows the younger listener to have that in common with it. Even though they know they're listening to a classic, it just hits them. And I don't know, it's something about, not to brag, but I mean, people have called it timeless. And it's really humbling to even have any music, have created any music that anyone would call that. It's super humbling. But I think that's the attribute of timeless music, is that it can connect with later generations based off of the energy it encapsulates. And I think that's one of the big reasons. I think another reason is when you get at that age, you've grown up listening to the music that was in your household, or that your parents listened to, or that your uncles or whoever your elders were, and your older buddies or older brothers or whatever listened to. And you get at this age to where you start going out based off of that and finding your own taste and listening to the music, finding music that gets you going, or that you're feeling, and just a new landscape of music discovery at that age, right? And nowadays there's streaming. Back in the day, you listened to what was in your household and what was on the radio, and if you wanted anything else, you bought it, or you went to somebody's house who had it and made a tape or whatever. Things were passed physically. Now, if a kid wants to do that fresh in the adult world, or in the teenhood, deep dive into music, everybody's catalog is at their fingertips. Everybody's, and whatever rabbit hole they dive into, they'll start finding things they listen to and develop their taste. And I think, somewhere along the lines with the new kids, Souls of Mischief is one of those groups. And I think not just us, but that early 90s vibe of hip hop in that time. It was a special time, a period of growth in hip hop that's unlike no other, and like the others, they are unlike each other. But it was very special, and I think the young kids have gotten into that vibe early, whether it be fashion, whether it be music. A big chunk of the younger kids are into it, and along with that is us, because that's where our music came from. And I could be, this is just me speculating. We talk about it all the time, but however it happened, we're thankful that another younger generation has embraced our music.
It's wonderful to hear your perspective, really. You reminded me of a couple things along the way. I would say that there was just that time from, let's say, 91 to 95, there was, the level of artistry was so high. I think hip hop was properly breaking out of its shell, and new sounds and everything. There was so much diversity there. A lot of it changed along the way. It started getting commercial. Hip hop started getting rich. A lot of other stuff started entering the scene. And at that point in your career, you guys decided to go independent, which is easier nowadays when you have all these online platforms and stuff like that. But back then, that must have been a very tough decision to go with the hieroglyphics and build your own kind of legacy.
It was forced upon us, really. I mean, and also we got to shout out Domino. He had the presence of mind to say, hey, instead of going back into this major label system where we'll always be sort of the underdog, underappreciated, underfunded, let's do it ourselves. But the internet actually played a pivotal role in us going independent then, because we started our website in 1994.
Wow.
So I think it's going to be...
Was it 4 or 5?
Four, I think 4, maybe 5.
4 or 5.
But I mean, it's 28, almost 30 years old. So that's before, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I mean, yeah, before like IBM or, Apple, like a lot of these companies, that big companies, didn't have websites. So we had a website.
No musicians
had
any website.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so, and that shout out to Stinky, because he was like a fan who created it. And then we reached out and bought the name and built it. And this is when you still had dial-up. So it was CompuServe and Prodigy and AOL and stuff.
Took 2 minutes to get in there.
Yeah.
But this was before AOL, right?
Or like right when it started cracking.
No, this was before people, right around the time.
Yeah, when they were sending CDs out to everybody.
Yeah.
But so we built up our fan base through direct mailing. We didn't build up our fan base. We built up our war chest, I guess, our money, by sending records out, music out, these oldies tapes and B-sides cassettes that we manufactured based on people finding our address on the internet, sending us a check and paying, but then that's also how we built sort of this worldwide network of guys like Fat Philly or whatever, that were promoters all over the world, and they knew we connected with the fans directly. Through the internet. So all of a sudden, it wasn't just America that we were dealing with, it was the whole planet. So the internet actually played a pivotal role in us going independent. That, and I think Domino deciding, hey, let's just record a record and then see where we go from there. And I mean, it was the best decision. I don't think we'd be here right now if we were to try to go the major label route. And if you look at a lot of our peers from that era who I think maybe because they're from New York or closer to the labels and things like that, that they have the option of getting re-signed to all these labels, but they're not around as much or not as present as we are right now. And I think that has everything to do with us going independent.
I suppose the labels also, they trying to take charge of what your sound should be and what's popping right now. I can't even imagine what it's like in the States.
Absolutely. I mean, well, when we were on a label, we put out 93 Till Infinity. Well, they put out 93 Till Infinity. Great album. They loved it. They even admitted that they could have done better. They dropped the ball like many times during the release and throughout the promotion. But, you know, they did spend money. And, of course, we were happy to be on the label. They were happy with the album. The very next album we went to do, they were like, we want you to make a pop album. The very next album. Even though the album we made was successful, even though they knew what kind of music that we made, and they were happy with it, they literally sat us down and they were like, look, we don't want you to do any hip hop. We want you to do pop hip hop, like pop music. And we were like, no. And they were like, if you don't, then we're gonna sour this relationship and make it hard for you. So that's just a brief explanation, a summary of what happened with us on a label. And so yeah, that's why, as Tajai spoke to earlier, we were soured by the major label experience. We had offers after we left that label. There were still labels that wanted to sign us, at least two.
You were still very huge.
Probably would have been more if we dug deeper and actually did some negotiating. But we were so turned off by that experience, and then everything else he just explained happened. So yeah, it was. So to your point, that's the kind of stuff that happens, man. It was. I could say this. I remember this. This is how I felt. It was the first time in my life, because we were just 18, 19. It was the first time in my life that somebody just literally bold-faced, just completely broke a deal, lied, and changed the terms of some shit and didn't give a shit about it. They literally were like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be. But yeah, they literally, we were talking to them, we were like, why would you want us to do this? You know we make hip-hop. And they were like, so we don't care, we're not doing hip-hop anymore. And we were like, but you said this. And they were like, I know what we said. And then in my life, it was the first time I had an interaction with a grown adult that would just bold-faced lying callously, coldly, or I don't even know if lying, but had lied and had no remorse about it at all. It was a real eye-opener for me. Yeah, because I knew those kind of people existed. And, you know, but as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid who was raised around pretty much, you know, I had good parents, you know, and they had good friends. And so for the most part, so I had never had that experience. First time was with label execs. I was like, oh, the real world. Here we go, you know?
Industry rule number 4080.
Yeah, and of course we were definitely thinking that because that album had just come out at that time.
All right.
We were like, oh,
on our label.
On our label.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And the label made T-shirts that said "Record Company People Are Shady"
as
merchandise. So that lets you know what he's saying. They leaned into the fact that they were not good people.
Wow, that's cold. I can't imagine.
Lesson learned.
Wow, that's wow. Yeah. Wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's good on the other hand that maybe, like you said, you mentioned you grew up in a very, you know, loving home and you had lots of friends and stuff like that. Maybe that did give you the foundation to, you know, realize that you weren't gonna accept that. Whereas I'm afraid a lot of other young artists, especially at that, you know, tender age. I mean, you know, 18, yeah, you're an adult, but you're still in your head. You don't know what the world is like. A lot of people accepted that without blinking. So. Damn, I'm a little bit. I can't imagine what you guys were going through, and for sure there were also doubts in that second, and
it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was tough.
It was heartbreaking.
Heartbreaking.
Especially because it came so quickly, right? We had 1 year of being. Well, we got signed in '92, but we came out in '93, and by '94 it had all gone bad, pretty much, you know.
And that's such a short time span when you think about it. That goes by so quick. I just wanted to talk about your independent path as well. But before I do that, I just wanted to ask you about 93 Till Infinity. Obviously, it's your biggest record. It's the biggest hit. It's got something magical in it that just brings people together. If you guys don't mind, I'm going to play it one more time here live on 102.5. We'll make a little break, and then we'll get back with A-Plus and Tajai of Souls of Mischief. Hvala vam ljudi na pozornosti. Pustit ćemo 93 Till Infinity, njihov najveći hit, i nastavljamo razgovor sa Souls of Mischief.
Intenzivna vrućina. Heat. Salon.
Evo nas, chillamo ovdje na 102.5 sa Tajaiom i A-Plusom iz Souls of Mischief. Guys, just before I hop on to the next question, I just wanted to ask out of curiosity, like, I know this is your biggest hit, 93 Till Infinity, but what song do you like performing the most? Do you have a favorite?
I like performing first song, our first introduction to the world, and everybody raps so cool. You know, like, it was good raps on that one. Not that there aren't good raps on all the songs. I'm just saying everybody was really in their bag as far as their style.
Yeah.
For me, it's 93 Till.
Yeah, because of the vibe of togetherness and everybody just.
Yeah, I mean, I like performing a lot of our songs, but that one is special to me. It's just, you know, it's for all the reasons. It's our biggest song. It's got that vibe. I made the beat myself. For all of those reasons, it's just and the way the people react to it. It's just like, you know, we have popular songs, but it's our only quote unquote hit. As Souls of Mischief, so it's good to have that feeling, that one that everybody knows, and you know,
it's bliss. I wanted to quickly ask you as well, like, we were talking about your independent path and everything. So in August 2014 for Linear Labs Records, you dropped the album with Adrian Young. There's Only Now. I find that period in hip-hop very interesting as well, those first few years of the 2010s, because I feel like something was opening up for the independent labels, for the independent artists. Lots of interesting artists came out that time. You can go from, you know, the Beast Coast to the Joey Badasses, the Flatbush Zombies, the Kendrick Lamars on the West Coast, TDE, you name it, I call it. Just so many good artists coming out at that time, and such a good time for independent music. Was that kind of time in hip hop also a second wind for you?
Ooh. I mean, I think we were excited to be working with Adrian. We just did an album with Prince Paul a few years before, and so working with outside producers was something we just had started doing. But Adrian Young, you know, that record is all live, right? All the instruments are live, even though it sounds like samples. So he had a whole different process of recording. So it was exciting for that reason. I don't think really as far as industry, like, we've lived outside of the industry now the whole time. Like, we were talking about this yesterday, except for going out on tour with Tribe Called Quest and De La Soul, like our first tour, and maybe one other tour with the Pharcyde. We just done our own tours our entire career, you know. And just indie, like, we travel around, we go to radio, we do TV and all that stuff, but it's all based on our own steam. And I don't think that the industry kind of affects us in that way. But I do know that it was a good time in hip hop because there were all these sort of new lyrical acts coming out. So it seemed like, well, and then blogs, there was blogging going on, so there was a new way for people to connect to the people beyond just the music, like, you know, the blog era or whatever.
Yeah.
But for us, it was just like, I think we were excited to be doing a new project and a new way of creation with Adrian. But the industry part of it, I don't think we really paid much attention to. And I mean, also about 2012 was when we started High Road Day. And so we started our own sort of festival to curate and celebrate the type of stuff that we're doing and sort of these outliers in the industry. And so it's cool. I mean, it's great to see what those guys have gone on to do, but I think they're way more locked in than we are. Partially because, well, New York is the center of the music industry, and partially because LA is probably the center of, you know, the film industry. And entertainment in general, right? So they have a lot more opportunities than us. It's like we live on an island somewhere, you know?
Yeah. To his point, the Bay Area there's not a lot of music industry presence. You know, most of the acts out there are in. You know, we have an independent nature out there, all the way back from Too Short in the '80s. You know, he was an independent rapper, and that's how we saw it our whole lives. People doing music like that. So when we ended up independent, it wasn't foreign to us, and we've been independent ever since. So yeah, like I can't say it better than Tajai. It doesn't really. Industry shifts don't affect us much because we've been independent for. So this is another thing that Tajai says. You know, we've been doing this 30 years. We've been independent for 28 of them. You know, so it's we're right there with the industry because we're in hip hop. This is hip hop culture, but the waves of the industry don't really affect us much. In those ways, we kind of just. We're organic with it. We do it how we feel. And the opportunity with Adrian Young came about organically, and the friendship we built with him was organic. The album we made, it was just kind of like we weren't thinking like what's going on in hip hop and how we should come. It was just like Souls of Mischief, we're gonna go record how we do with Adrian producing it, and that's kind of how we've always been, even up till now. I mean. You know, we got some stuff cooking, so
that's amazing to hear, and just the level of musicianship on that album. Clearly, Adrian Young just amazing to listen to sonically. It's mixed so nicely. The features there, Ali Shahi Muhammad on some of the production as well from A Tribe Called Quest, and he's been continuing to do amazing music throughout his life. So just to hear them. Create this soundscape. Imagine this soundscape for you guys. It was a very nice angle to listen to your music to, and also just to hear your stories, experience. My favorite song off that album is "All You Got Is Your Word." Just the message of that song, I think, is beautiful. And then there's clearly the big single with Snoop Dogg. It's very nice to see a West Coast legend. You guys had very different paths throughout your career, very different, but it was just nice to see how real he kept it. Just to say, you know, he really likes your stuff and he hopped on a song with you unconditionally, it looks to me.
Yeah, it was great. Him and shout out Busta Rhymes too, man. Those guys. I think, you know, when we're from that era too, like Snoop is class of '93. His album came out the same year as us. Like we share a sort of camaraderie because even though we've had different career paths, we all were in the same industry at that time, and we know what was going on and how things are. And Busta, I mean, you know, he's always showed us love. He's a tourist too. Anyways, he's always showed us love, and I mean, we sent him that record. And he turned it around like in a day or something crazy. And we was like, oh, man, he killed it. So that whole project, man, shout out Zagreb from Living Legends to just all of it coming together was great. And I feel like, you know, 93 Till Infinity is the hook. And that's what the kids are into. And, you know, everybody knows about. But when they delve into our catalog, like we got some good records. Like that whole Prince Paul album, then Montezuma's Revenge album is good too. And I feel like that because we don't have the pressure of having to garner record sales, we can do whatever we want to. So all of our albums are different, very different from each other, but I don't think we've made any missteps musically. So, you know, I mean, it's really cool that we have later on catalog pieces still with, you know, guys like Snoop or Busta on it or whatever that people have never heard of. And then they stumble upon them because they're, you know, the algorithm or because they're looking up all of our catalog on you know, one of these DSPs, and I love the fact that we can surprise them with like these other records they've never heard because I think it shows our versatility and the fact that we're not just like a one hit wonder or one album wonder.
You're a craftsman.
I mean, we try to be.
I very much like the way you put it. You mentioned the Pharcyde earlier that you went with them on tour, and as I was digging. And I saw it on Instagram some time ago. There was like a petition going around for you guys to make a joint album since they were West Coast as well. Is there still any, talk about that, or was that just like fan fiction?
Go ahead.
What's funny about that is we actually made an album with the Pharcyde many years ago. We made the album under a group name called Almighty Mighty Python. And
no way.
And so we were recording the album. The Souls of Mischief were going to Southern California, and we've been friends with the Pharcyde since we first came out. We're contemporaries, comrades, friends. From the came out around the same time.
Yeah.
Our demos were floating around in the industry at the same time. But the labels were interested. So and we met each other early. So we've been friends with them. So later on, we started working on this album with them. We went on tour with them before and all of that. Done many shows, and we start recording the album, and so we're recording the album with Imani, Trey, and Brown, and at this point, the Lip is just like not in the group at that time, and it's fresh, and so we're recording the album, and then in the middle of recording that album, that's when Trey left the group, like right in the middle of recording that album. And so we have these songs that were just, they're done, they're out, they exist, but they're never coming out. So, and we put out one single called Amp, or Almighty Mighty Python. And it's a single, and then the B-side is Curb Your Nerve. And that's just, since I wasn't on the song with Pharcyde and Souls, I did a solo song on the B-side. And that single is out. We made pressed some vinyls, they're out there. The limited amount, but nothing ever came of the album, and it just exists. So it's funny it's funny that you asked that. And you hear stories about songs that are made that never come out, and the collaborations that never come out. This is another one.
Very sorry to hear that. I would have loved to dive into that project.
It exists. We just, probably have to update it because we made it in 97, 97, 98.
Was it? No. It was.
I think
Maybe
so.
It was.
No, because I was finishing school, I think.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
98, like 98.
98.
Damn.
That's crazy. And I'd have to go through my big case of unlabeled or badly labeled CDs to find these songs. I have thousands of CDs that I will never throw away because I don't know what's on them. And just as a music person, I never throw away tapes, never throw away CDs, never throw away vinyl, never throw away rap books. And I have certainly hundreds, I'm pretty sure thousands of CDs, and I know those songs are in there somewhere. My copy anyway.
Wow.
But who knows?
Who knows? Hey, big shout out to the Pharcyde. I saw their show just before COVID in London in the Jazz Cafe, and what's the neighborhood again? Camden. And they killed it too, man. They're still so live and
yeah, man.
We had a
So
show with them
fresh.
last night.
What? So,
We were with them last night in Ireland, in Cork Jazz Festival.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Last night.
Last night.
So last night we did the show. We did the show, and we caught the flight here. Our flight left 9 this morning.
So we had to leave. We left straight from the show to the airport.
Yeah, we left Cork at 3 a.m. and drove to Dublin and flew out of Dublin at 9. But we were just with them last night. That's family.
crazy. That's crazy. Big shout out to the Pharcyde.
Yeah, shout out Pharcyde. Small world, man.
Love. I don't even need to tell you guys how much I love their music. And then I just mentioned 2019, and then there was a big gap for 3 years that we all had to go through. Probably one of the rare occasions on the planet in the history of humans that everybody on the planet is affected by the situation. Whatever your standpoint is on the situation, everybody's affected. And especially, us, the musicians, the artists, the promoters, the music industry. So given that you guys are indeed independent, how did you handle that situation? How did you deal with it? And how did it rub off on you? Was it maybe a positive experience at some point? I'm curious.
I think it was positive. I think the world needed a reset. I mean, I feel bad for the businesses and things that closed, and I definitely feel bad about all the people who died from sickness or from loneliness and all that. But as far as music-wise, I mean, A-Plus, what did you drop, like 3 albums during that time?
4
albums, you know. I recorded probably 3 projects that haven't come out yet. So, you know, it was a good time to work and refine your craft. So from that perspective, it was positive. I think also, though, like, as people who are creatives, we have something to do in those times of solitude. A lot of people whose whole life is social media or just socializing, interacting, it was probably really tough on them. But for us, I think that we have something to retreat to when we're by ourselves, and that's music, you know. And then with file sharing and all that, you don't have to, you know, you can record at your house. It's not like we had to meet up at the studio or anything like that. So got a lot of stuff done.
That's
yeah,
true.
I mean, what he said, I mean, it was certainly horrific and horrible and one of the worst things that has ever happened. But, you know, you either get up or lay down, right? So looking at it in hindsight, since it did happen, it clearly inevitably it happened. So with that, we just tried to make the best of it, you know. And as artists, you know, we record. I mean, we couldn't make money going around doing shows or anything, so I was digging into my savings and getting jobs and doing all kind of different jobs. I learned some other skills, and at the same time, like Tajai said, use recording and being artistic as an outlet to actually deal with the psychological and emotional aspects, and even, you know, made a little money too. You know, even the financial aspect of it, still able to find ways to make it work. So I think, like how we called it a reset, it's like looking at it in hindsight. Like, I wish it didn't happen, but since it did happen, a lot of good things happened because of it. Even though it was a horrible thing, you know. And for artists, it was good. We were able to be prolific, and once the world opened back up, we were ready to hit the ground running. Like, look, this tour we doing this year, already 106 dates. We couldn't wait to get back out here and then hit them like never before, like with a vengeance. And it just happens to coincide with our 30th. So it's like
Pop 50 too.
It's like turning what did they turning something into something?
What is it?
Yeah.
Lemons into lemonade.
Yeah, turning lemons into lemonade. Some real super sour lemons, and like, what you gonna do? Die of thirst?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I
you know,
totally agree.
I know y'all know about it out here. We're not telling you nothing that your country doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And, you know, you guys, so the whole concept of like, man, this shit went down, man. What can we do? Try to do something, you know?
That's right. I love your spirit. I love how you approach the whole situation. And you just mentioned you guys have 100 plus dates. I'm like in my 30s, and I'm thinking, wow, that must be physically excruciating. But how do y'all deal with it? I see you guys look really good. You're like fit. You're healthy.
Thank you. Fruit, veggies, water. You know, rest. Yeah, well, not much of that right now, but yeah. And then rap is also exercise, so I think we stay fit because we have to have breath control and all that kind of stuff.
It's like doing a full cardio workout every night, hour and 20 minutes of cardio straight every night. So and you know, one of the more intangibles of it all is the recharge we get from the crowd, the energy exchange. I mean, we're dead beat sometimes, going around like just super tired. But you hit that stage and you get that energy from the crowd, and it's a real thing. You know, everybody is powerful by themselves. Imagine a bunch of people all together. We feel it when we're up there, and that gives us the energy to give what we got to give that night, and to continue on to the next day, because no one crowd is the same. No one city is the same. Every single one of these patrons deserve everything we have. So it's just like a rinse repeat. You know, tired as hell, get energy from the crowd, give it all to them. Go on to the next one, tired, get the energy from the crowd. That's the life.
That's the process.
Yeah.
That's wonderful to hear your perspective. Guys, I really want you to have an amazing gig tonight. I know a lot of people are really excited to see you guys. And the same goes for Nonfiction, who are also performing tonight with you guys. 30 Years of Blackout. Fat Philly has been doing a lot of work on the Croatian hip hop scene, and Aquarius is a club with a lot of hip hop history. The likes of Method Man, Busta Rhymes, Big L and OC, Pete Rock. All the big names came through, and you're performing in a proper venue with big hip hop history. So it's full circle that you guys are here in Zagreb tonight as well, and you're gonna give people a real hip hop experience, lyricism, showmanship, amazing beats. I'm so excited for you guys.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much for coming through to my show.
And thank you. We appreciate you having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a blessing. It's truly an honor. Guys, break a leg.
Come through tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? No, Aquarius. It's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. And tomorrow,
Be at the university?
the university
right.
lecture.
That's right. At United Pop, we have a university lecture. I will repeat that in Croatian in a minute.
Okay.
And I definitely invite people to that too, because that's where we're going to get deep into the knowledge, into the music, into the production,
Let's get it.
into your 30 plus year experience with music.
Let's get it.
Let's get it. Hvala vam ljudi što ste bili uz nas i u 102.5 FM, ove Hit Radio. Kod nas su bili Tajai i A-Plus i Souls of Mischiefa. Nemojte propustiti taj nastup večeras u Aquariusu. 30 godina Blackouta, 50 godina hip-hopa, a kako bolje proslaviti nego sa ovakvom legendarnom grupom. I za kraj ćemo poslušati Souls of Mischief, Adrian Young, All You Got Is Your Word. Oprosti, Boris Jokić, ulazim ti u termin, ali evo, ovo je zbilja kraj. Hvala vam na pozornosti, ostanite u 102.5 FM, a sutra u United Popu a sutra u United Popu imamo i predavanje sa Souls of Mischief. Thank you very much, guys, one more time, and have a blast tonight.
Hey.
Thank you.